Well, when I first started, I thought it was all going to be so very simple, but then I realised that there was different issues with different students, because all deaf students have a varying degree of level of education throughout their growing up and their background, and also depending on their deafness as to whether or not they've had some basic structure of English in their growing up years. It will vary. And at one time I had 3 students who were doing a 7307 course, the City and Guilds, and I hadn't realised this until that time, that after I'd given the notes for the second week, they came to me and said that one student had difficulty with the language within those notes. So I thought, okay then. So I took the notes away and I modified them the best way I could into BSL for the one student, and then took them back, and she was very happy with that. She did me an evaluation form and she was happy with that. And so the next week that we went, I tried to incorporate it in one set of notes, because I was the only note taker for the 3 students. And what did for 2 didn't do for 1. So as much as I possibly could, I tried to modify it into BSL. And then I sat with her later and we went through the notes together, and I asked if this was possible to continue in this way, and she was happy with that. And she said if she had any difficulties, then she would highlight those areas and bring them back the following week. And that worked fine, because we worked consistently together for those months that she was on the course, and the other 2 were happy with what was provided. And as such, as we developed the rapport between us, we decided what she wanted, and quite happy with it afterwards.
Tutor meal time is enormously important for supporting students with additional needs if they need it. But it must be remembered that if the student does have a communication problem, you have to book that through student support and ensure that a communicator is available at the same time.
What we would aim to do is, before they start their course, we would aim to do a deaf awareness session with all their tutors, so that the tutors are aware of the student themselves, they're aware of the support needs of that student, to give them an awareness of how to teach a deaf student. And we find that helps when they actually arrive on the course. In the early weeks of the course, we would also seek to do a deaf awareness session for the peer group, the students themselves, but only if the deaf student wants it, because not all deaf students want that. Some don't, so we have to respect their desires. In addition to in-class support, they would have the option of tutorial support, again with the tutor of the deaf. This tutorial support is for language modification and for clarification of subject-specific language and concepts, to make sure that they have understood subject-specific terms, because it's important that they not only see the word, but they understand the concept behind that word. And that tutor of the deaf also would have level 4 British Sign Language, so they will be able to explain those concepts in their own language. Out of class, we would also provide support if the student requires it, in terms of accessing college facilities. An example of that might be they might want to use the gym, in which case we would support them in the induction for the gym, so they understand about all the equipment. Another example of out of class support is that they may want to access the student social centre, in which case we would help them with that.
My experience of having a BSL student in my class was quite interesting. My first priority really was to make that student integrated into the group, to ensure that they had peers that they could relate to, and to make sure they weren't isolated in any way. I also needed to give consideration to the other students in the group. So with the deaf students' permission, I did my own sort of mini deaf awareness session at the beginning of the class, so that everybody knew what to expect, how best to communicate, and to really remind them to make sure that the student was included in anything that was going on in the class. I think I was very lucky because although it was some time ago, I had a deaf awareness session as part of staff development in the college that I worked. And although it was a long time ago, I could remember some of the things. For example, a perception that if somebody wore a hearing aid, that made them hear better. And I remember that it didn't, it just amplified all the background noise. Also, previously, I'd had 2 other deaf students in my tutor group, and so I had some experience to bring to the class.